Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Looks like we are live. Put that on mute. And it looks like we are live. Recording from Arlington, Vermont. This is Happy Valley Hobbies. I'm Mr. Katie, and these are hobbies that make me happy. Well, sorry for getting on the live stream a little bit later than I intended to. I was planning on doing a slightly different project today. Still with model trains. However, I was not able to find the kits to do so. How much you want to bet? I'll find them as soon as I hit the stop broadcasting. And it sounds like, let's close this down a bit. There we go. Yeah, it seems that Discord is deciding to go, hey. Yeah, it's one of the Discord setups. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't know how to silence the tab. Downloads. Well, there is settings, but it's probably not the smart time to be looking at this. Come on. That's the one I want. So, yeah, as I was saying, I was planning on doing a kit today, but unfortunately, what had happened is that I put him in a, you know how you put something in a spot where you know you'll be able to find it, and turn around and find out you forgot where that spot was. So that's what happened. So I'm not able to do the project that I want. The project is a Congoino Models tank car. And actually, at least two of them. I think I bought at least two. So it's like, you know, put one together while the glue is drying, and turn around and use the other one. And you know, do it as a sort of kind of a production line, but I'm not able to find said stuff and all that. So it's definitely going to be a short one, I guess. One of the interesting things is that the local NMRA group, the Hudson Berkshire, is having a thing tomorrow, or on October 22nd of 22, which is going to be about, I think it's going to be about an hour away. There is no straight way of getting there, and it's sort of all that stuff. So roads and all that. Hello, Anthony. Thank you for coming in. I'm feeling better than last week. Last week I just felt but it seems that I'm slowly getting over COVID. Wound up going to urgent care just to, you know, have a professional look at, you know, am I doing the testing right and all that, etc. And apparently I was doing the testing right, and I was still testing positive, which was annoying in itself. Got a doctor's note to go back to work on Friday. But then when I informed work that I can go back to work on Friday, they're like, yeah, we have nothing for you to do on Fridays. So here I am. My normal work schedule is 10-hour shifts, Monday through Thursday. Friday is Usually usually that's what my supervisor does, is, he does 8-hour shifts, but 5 days a week. However, before I got COVID, he wound up going to the hospital for his foot. And as far as I know, he's still in the hospital. So it's one of those things of, they were short down their main pillar of the shipping department. They grabbed somebody that had worked at the shipping department before, but they never really did all the paperwork. So they were doing that, and then next thing you know, here I am catching COVID. So he's been, as far as I know, has been sort of kind of been on his own. Someone who's been with the company for at least a decade. So they do have confidence in his ability to change positions and all that. But at the same time, we are, I guess we're slowing down. I don't know if mattresses have a season or not. But they seem to be okay of having having a diminished workforce at this time. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, my plan was to do a couple of car kits, which unfortunately I've not been able to find. One of the things I probably should do now, it's becoming pretty obvious that I need to reorganize stuff and all that. Just unfortunately, since I've not been feeling well, I've been sort of like just, instead of putting stuff where or finding a spot where they should go, it's basically, oh, I'll just put this here for now and take care of it later. And well, it is now later. So, and I think that's one of the importance of, well, just life in general. Having things of, in the manufacturing world, they have 5S and all that, where everything's every tool has a place, and every place has a tool on it. Hello, Plumber 33. I'm assuming you didn't do too much damage over at Rainbow Bell's place. Yeah, it's actually sometimes very interesting on seeing YouTubers, and especially when they start interacting in the real life and all that. And then you also get a I want to say, then you get a gauge of nope. You sort of get a gauge of what people really are, because I know with I think it's called the Modelers Podcast. A lot of times they turn around and they, I'm not quite sure why, but they turn around and says, dime for scale, so I'm not quite sure how that started, but might have been for stuff that was like really, really small, and they said, here's a dime, so how small it is. But now they're doing, it's like for, they're showing up at an eatery and all that, and they're holding a dime in their hand and all that, dime for scale. So I guess that's a I'm coughing a lot less, but as you can see, I'm still coughing. So especially I would assume, especially for N scale or Z scale, it's like, oh, this is how actually the size of it is. So I guess they're actually doing the same thing for full size people, but it is actually a little hard to gauge on how people's sizes are. I was sort of surprised to find out that Heath from Humanity Junction is shorter than I am. I think he comes about to hear about that. Yeah, I hope to kick it also. I'm to the point now where I'm bored being at home. Just like in the middle of the pandemic, it's like one of those things that going like, hey, I want to go outside, but everything is closed off. And I have been out since I live alone. Things have to be done. And, I have to, do things like getting groceries, laundry, and all that. And that requires me to do it because I don't have someone to pass the ball to. Which at times would be nice. But it is one of those things of I think a couple of years ago, some friends of mine says, hey, why don't you try dating? It's like, I'm like, how do you date in the middle of a pandemic? But apparently my next door neighbor wound up finding somebody. So, and yes, and much I'm willing to bet a much shorter pool because she's an older lesbian. So it's like, wait, how did she? But I'm assuming online because I very briefly met the fiance or fiancée, their significant other, and they mentioned that they drove all the way from wherever they lived here and all that. So well, the way I look at it, Plumber 33, it's like my how am I gonna how am I gonna say this? It's basically I just never got the skills on how to either date or recognize that somebody liked me. Sort of like someone has to, I'm really thick-headed and someone has to actually basically hit me over the head. Oh, why, thank you. All right, I guess I'll have to try that out afterwards. After, of course, watching Anthony Dodge's channel, because he usually does his right after mine. But also it is sort of kind of hard, especially when you're in a pandemic where in a place you just moved to. So the hangouts that I would normally hang out with, I don't know where they are in this area. Yeah, that's what I think. I don't know. I get the impression that Joyce might have just, grabbed you in a chokehold and said, "You're coming with me." Congratulations, you just been tagged. Yeah, actually, the relationships I've had over the years, it's been basically the woman turning around and going like, "Hey, I like you." There has been a couple of times that I've asked women out, and the way I look at she had to make all the moves. Yep. Well, thank you for coming, Dan. Yeah, it's one of those things of uh I was O for life. uh no, I mean it's just one of those things of I know there's a lot of people, shorten names and all that because of uh it sometimes it's actually, in some cases harder to type and all that. Uh use the shorthand version of it. That's one of the things I like with tagging people, because you do the at symbol, hit two letters, and if the if it's a small group, they can turn around and it's like just put out the whole name and all that. I know. Think with I remember trying to think, with Wigwag Workshop, a lot of people just go triple W, which at times gets confusing because it's like, why are they doing World Wide Web? And it's like, oh, okay. But a lot of times people put down just HBH, uh, happy. Those who know my first name, which is Edward, they put that down also. Um, Interesting, the Edward sometimes gets confusing at times because there might be somebody else named Edward in the chat with a different name, or it's actually in their I want to say handle, but I'm not quite sure that if that's what YouTube puts down as uh what they put in for a person's name. So I've actually never saw Happy Gilmore. I think I saw clips of it and all that, but I actually never. Uh, I use voice over text. All right. Oh, hello, Curly. I think that, let's see, with Anthony, the plumber, Dan, and Curly, I think that might be uh the whole crew that usually hangs out here, which I'm very appreciative of. Uh, there's one, using 33 instead of the plumber 33. Of course, you could really confuse them and go, 33 and a third. But that's only for people who understand vinyl. Yeah, I think Edward is cool. It's something that my parents have wound up naming me. I was named after well, it was a combination of my grandfather and uncle, who were both Edwards. Uh, then when my sister was born, there was there was the comment of, no, we're not naming her after dead people. So she was named after named after my great aunts. And then many years later, after they had passed away, there was talk about having kids and stuff like that, etc. It's just like, no, I'm not gonna be called Aunt Mildred. So, but it looks like doubtful that will happen. So, oh, speaking of Wigwag Workshop, here he is. Don't worry, there's not too much of a chat on there, but we're just mentioning that there's sometimes people call you WWW instead of Wigwag Workshop. Great. I haven't really been calling It's one of those things of I haven't been coughing all day. Now that I'm live, I'm coughing. Yeah, I would have to say there's nothing wrong with Edward. Yeah, you don't want to be late for dinner when you are the one cooking the said dinner. Uh, yeah, if I remember correctly, I went through the meaning of names and all that, and I want to say, if I remember correctly, it stands for Noble Guard, because ward is means guarding, and I guess the Ed part was originally designed for head of household. Then they turned around and chopped the H off. Good point, Anthony. Very good point. Yeah, because when you live by yourself, you're usually not talking to yourself. Mm. Yeah, I guess Dubs is a good name. I mean, there's so many different styles of names that are out there. And sometimes, it's like there used to be the uh, mm, that's why they used to have the no they used to have the thing of naming well, at least the first son after the father. That's why you had a lot of juniors around. There was a time that the first daughter was named after the mother. So there was also junior on women's names. If you look up, I would say learn 150 years ago. I remember someone was, there was an Elizabeth Jr., which they're like, Elizabeth Jr.? Then it's like, that's how they used to do stuff. But now I guess the ideal now is, try to make a name that has more sense or something along those lines. Um, uh, I know, I know a couple that named their, actually more than one couple that's named their kids after cartoon characters. Uh, because, well, they happened to like the cartoon and they went with that. Sometimes, they would go, maybe make the same. Yes, there are some people that talk to themselves. My mother was one of them. It was confusing at times. It's like, who the hell is she yelling at? But she loved talking and was very, very much a social butterfly. So when she went into the nursing home, she perked right up because it's like, ooh, she can talk to people, instead of being in a trailer park out in the middle of nowhere, and where the trailer park was slowly declining with people, especially people her age. Um, so she wound up being, she joined all the things that she could and all that because, well, that meant she could talk to people. Uh, I myself, I don't want to say I'm leaning more towards relatively quiet. If there's somebody else out there that has a more vocal. They're more vocal on what they say and all that. I'm usually, the listener. But if there's people that don't talk over me, like on live streaming, I do get to a point where it's very hard to shut me up. But but yeah, I think if you see me live in person with a group and all that, I'll probably be a lot more quieter than some of the other ones that are out there. But I guess there's going to be a lot of people coming in Amherst, which is coming up soon in the end of July, not July, January. The other J month. Ugh. And so I'm not sure if anyone's going to be wandering up there. That's where I actually first met Heath from Humanity Junction for the first time. It was a very short, hi, how you doing and all that. And he's like, I'm filming this, he, focused on, I'm filming on this. Here's a sticker and a pin, and away we went. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things of, I know before my father passed away, we're talking about him going to a nursing home, and nursing homes in the late 90s weren't as they are now, or even when my mother had was in there, which was good, I would say at least a good 10 years apart. And also my father was also not as sociable as my mother was. So that's probably why I would have it was that sort of that combination why my father would never didn't want to go in. He was a very private person, where my mother, on the other hand, was talking to everybody, and at times that would actually cause some conflict, because we would go grocery shopping and all that, and my mother would start talking to a complete stranger, and then it's one of those things, and my father's like, shut up, So, but yeah, it's I just got a notification on Facebook that I've it's been 3 years since I moved to Vermont. So, and most of it's been under the pandemic. But theoretically, the pandemic is, I guess, slowing down. That's why I was sort of surprised that I got it. But I guess the last current version, it's a little bit, it's not as deadly, but it's more contagious. So, you've been hearing rumblings about Amherst. Are they good rumblings or bad rumblings? Because rumblings can be either way. But yeah, actually, speaking of Congoino models, which was that was the kit I was going to do today, which I wasn't able to find, hence why I'm talking instead of building. Because the 3 dioramas that I've done, I think they're pretty much done. So that's why I've put them aside for right now. But I've also recently I would have to say, when it comes to spelling, I'm so glad I live in an area where the little red squiggle comes along. But yeah, that's why I'm sort of, the the yeah, the dioramas are pretty much done at this point. I got to figure out where to put them where they won't get damaged. Uh, hmm. Ooh. So Anthony, what's the theme for train running today? I know you had double deckers the other day. Uh, I don't know if you have anything that's Halloween themed because if I remember correctly, you turn around and use equipment that you actually ridden on, and I'm not sure how prevalent Halloween is in Germany. Some of the ones that some of the YouTube channels I've been watching, especially the ones that is, goes in the different full line freight. I was gonna say you did, I would have to say you probably didn't ride on a freight train, but uh, now you're gonna have the uh I guess the mallard on the floor. But there's some YouTube channels that have been, doing haunted station, ghost lights or something, everything else like that. Uh, but yeah, it's one of those things of uh hmm. I would have to say I guess still not ugh, I'm still not up to 100% because my brain's just going. So use car weight, wheel weights. Yes, that's one way to weight down stuff. Um, but yeah, it's like right now my layout is uh, currently in pieces, mainly because I'm adding uh, they're not switch machines, but they're actual sliding switches which have a bamboo skewer to the front fascia, so I can remotely move it like that. Uh, yeah, I do my best to weigh my cars correctly, especially the ones that I use on the club layout. The ones that I have for my personal layout, since it's only 8 foot long, and also, during the centennial, derailments were common. So it's one of those things of, doing, it's like, all right, there's a derailment. Well, it's what, even today, things are still derailment prone. Hello, Sidetrack 77. Good afternoon. One thing I found out last night, one of the groups I hang out with is a Civil War model training, Civil War modeler group, and they were talking about the Texas. Well, thing is, I know the Great Locomotive Chase that involved the General, which was the one that was stolen, the locomotive that was stolen. There was the Una, the Texas, and there's a third one which I can't remember. But it was a whole thing all about the Texas. And the thing is that originally that was all 5-foot gauge. And what they did to regauge the locomotive is, from what I understand, the tender wheels, they just grabbed a new set of wheels that were correctly to the 4-foot 9 gauge. That's what a lot of the 5-foot gauge railroads went to 4-foot 9. And that was all right. Well, see you later, wigwag. Basically wound up, sort of narrowing the tender wheels. They just, replaced the wheels. For the front truck, you can actually see where it's the axles are sort of pointing out a little bit. That was done because they redid they remachined the wheels so the wheels could fit in narrower, but they didn't chop the side off so it'd be flush. So that's why they sort of stick out. And then for the main drivers, they actually changed what's called the tires, because with the drivers, there's actually a tire. It's a steel tire that's actually on it. And when they turn around and they need to redo the wheels or something like that. They pull the tire off, put a new tire on, and remachine it. When they regauged it, they turned around, they put a much thicker tire on, so they could, when it was pressed on and all that, it was narrow enough so it could be 4 foot 9 inches, and then they could put the profile in and making sure everything is correct, which was fine, but apparently it was rubbing up against the frame and actually put in grooves inside the frame where the wheels were touching. So that was sort of kind of interesting. And that, of course, because of all that heat and rubbing and all that, that did sort of put cracks in the frame. But they still turned around and did repairs on it, and making sure that it kept on going, because apparently it was a very nice running engine. And also these repairs also sort of kind of sort of like dental records, sort of identify, okay, we fixed this and all that. So, hey, this is where the repair was. But the guy who was doing the whole thing, and they did turn around when they restored the last time they restored it to its, they said it was like a 1929 appearance or something like that. Not its 1864 appearance. Basically restoring it to when it looked like when it was during the Great Locomotive Chase. From my understanding, and I'm not sure of the details, but there was one of the things that they didn't want to do is that since during the restoration there was a lot of tearing down Confederate statues and stuff like that. So one of the things of, hello, Mystic, thank you for coming in. They didn't want since there was so much destruction of Confederate symbols, the theory is that they turned around, they didn't make it Civil War because it's was the locomotive that chased down the general. And but I mean, it's one of those things of I mean, this is just my opinion that yes, it was a very ugly time in US history, but if you don't remember the ugliness, you're gonna have a tendency to repeat it. Uh, uh, so, and another thing is that technically the locomotives were just doing their job of transporting stuff. I mean, there was vehicles themselves are not evil. It's usually the drivers that are doing it. And also the Great Locomotive Chase was trying to think now. It wasn't a complete success. If it wasn't well, Mystic, I'm feeling better than I was last week, but I'm still not 100%. So hopefully by Monday I'll be stopped coughing, because that's when I'll go back to work, and I don't want to scare off my coworkers. But yeah, I remember there was another YouTube channel, I forgot which one it was, but they were talking about preservation of locomotives and stuff like that. And the thing is that after the Civil War, they're just turning around and still using the locomotives as locomotives. I think the General got practically destroyed. So that was rebuilt. And it was also a locomotive that was regauged. So it might have the same issue. It might have the same issues as the Texas did, where there was a rubbing off. That Kodiak could last for a while. That's what I'm hoping not. But oh well. I will deal with it. But then I mean, that's what happened with the Jupiter and the 911, or the 119. They were just, it's like, yes, they were at a very significant historical moment and all that, but then it's like, all right, well, we'll just turn around and still use them as a normal locomotive. And then when it came to, okay, we're going to be scrapping these locomotives because they're no longer useful, no one was there to say, hey, wait a minute, these have historical significance. But and that's why they wound up getting scrapped, and that's why in the 70s they wound up building replicas of them. And in this video that I was watching, there's they actually had a picture of, I believe it was the General, and basically what it is, it had little arrows pointing at, well, this is from this era, this is from this era, this is from this era, this is from, it's like the whole entire if I remember correctly, it's like the ship of Pacifics, I think it's called. It's basically it's like, if you take a ship and you start replacing parts, when does even though the parts are exact, when does the ship become no longer the same ship? I mean, it's like the old thing, the 300-year-old Irish hammer that has had only 3 new handles and 2 new heads on it. But yeah, well cars, I don't think would be. I mean, it's way out of my era, but 18-inch curves are very tight for modern equipment. Finding a way down to finding a way to weigh him down is a good thing, but if you're trying to show them being empty, that's going to be a tad of a challenge. You might have to get thin pieces of steel or something like that that would, like sort of like the old some of the older weights from Athearn cars, being able to cover up the entire thing and go that direction. But that's one of the advantages, I think, is an advantage of doing the 19th century is, from my understanding, especially during the Civil War era, 10 cars is considered a long train. I don't. I almost want to say a 10-car train was considered long until the turn of the century. Once you started getting combination of air brakes and the automatic couplers, that's when you can start having longer trains, because you don't need as many brakemen. But yeah, it's and the thing is, when you only have 10 cars, then you wind up with it winds up being a lot easier to run and stuff like that. There's also a lot less. There's not that much traffic. I mean, it's I would have to say these days, trying to model a proper model train, the average train now is about a mile long. So I mean, and with multiple diesel units in between. All right, Anthony. I hope to get to 100% real quickly also, and probably now is a good time to start winding down myself and all that, so I can catch your stream. So actually, I probably start writing down people's names and all that, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want to say there's about 7 regular, 7 regulars. The models of the transition era. Yes, that's how I started off at doing the Delaware Hudson during the steam to diesel transition era, mainly because it was easy to get RS3s, RS2s, S2s, and S4s, but it was very hard to get a hold of a steam engine. Well, my opinion on tortoises, it depends on shorter trains, shorter locals, shorter cars. Yep, absolutely. And during the Centennial, they were even smaller yet, or shorter yet. And in the background, you probably can't hear this, but I can hear the Vermont Railway blowing for the crossing. I know when I was much younger, I would have, time to end the stream, take off. But the modern stuff is not as interesting as the older stuff. That's just my opinion. I know there's some people that do their best to, it's something on rails, so they just like it. I myself, it's more of, I like the odd stuff. If it's something that something that's odd looking or something like that, I have a tendency to like it more than that's what I like alcoves because I actually live near Schenectady. But even I think I like the RS3s mainly because of, that's what the Delaware Hudson mostly had. But I could see that I never really got into the centuries and stuff like that, which they are they're more varied than the RS3, but it's one of those things that I like the shape of the RS3, but I didn't like on how the early paint scheme for the Delaware Hudson was, which was black with stripes, yellow stripes in the front. That's all it was. Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff that doesn't quite fit. One thing I got is, as I said, I mostly have Alcos, but I do have the EMD Model 40, this very small little diesel switcher. And I know where there is one. They only made 11, but I do know where there's, well, what's left of one. It's just it's southeast of Amsterdam, New York. It's for a cement place, which the railroad that it's on has, it's now a bike trail, so it is sort of kind of landlocked. And there has been a lot of, people interested in rescuing the locomotive, but the cement company's like, nah, doesn't care, we don't, go away. But well, I guess it's time to start starting to wander this down. So everyone, thank you for coming. If you haven't subscribed or liked the video, I mean, it's not the greatest video, but if you like it, please like it. If you made it this far and you haven't been subscribed, right now I'm at 73 as of this recording. And I'll guess if possibly we'll see you at over at Anthony Dodge's, The Outsider. Yep, take care, everyone. I believe the world needs more love, so find your passion, add some silliness to it, and share it with the world.